Welcome paddle players from across the country to another installment of the PPTA, APTA instructional videos. My name is Nate Parsons, president of the PPTA, and today we are going to work on how they do it.
I think it's really important as a returner to try to apply pressure on that server, and you can do that a number of different ways. First, in terms of your positioning, making sure that you're attacking the ball fairly early, giving the server less time to get up to the net, so they're volleying more balls down lower at their feet. So I like to make sure that I start inside the baseline a little bit. I'm preparing my paddle up in here a little bit because the ball is generally going to bounce up into a higher position, and that's going to allow me to swing level or even slightly down at the ball to get that ball to land fairly over the net or short lower over the net, more at their feet.
Now Mike, what if you face a really hard serve that you're unable, and let's say you're missing too many returns? How would you adjust to that?
Well, the first thing I will do is I'll make sure that I readjust my positioning. If I'm standing here and the ball still seems to be coming to my left, then what I'll do is I'll even move up and over a little bit, try to take away that angle, forcing the server to go for a little bit more, forcing them basically to hit the perfect serve. If I do that and they're still able to hit the perfect serve and I feel like I just can't return it, I will still stand in this position just so that they know they still have to hit a really big serve, but then right as he's about in the middle of his motion, about to strike the ball, I'll start to move back so I'm able to play the ball off the screen now.
Okay, Mike. Now, as we get through the technique, after you hit the returner serve, where are you going from there? What dictates whether you're going up or back?
The strength of the return. If I hit a great, really good low return and I feel like they're going to pop it up and I'm going to blitz myself, I may do that. Most of the time, I'm going to hit the return and then immediately start to recover back into a home base position here.
Perfect, Mike. Well, let's show some examples of it. Okay, Mike, so when returning, is it always a forehand drive?
I think you should use a side that you just feel the most confident with in terms of consistency, placement, and power. I think consistency comes first, so if you feel like you can make 8 or 9 times out of 10 with your forehand, you should use your forehand. If you're only going to make your backhand 6 or 7. So that's the most important thing. Even if you may hit it harder with your forehand, I would use your backhand in that case.
Perfect. Now, Mike, when we move to the deuce, you have more offensive shots off the back screen. Talk about technique when you're driving it off the screen, things to avoid to make that a successful drive.
That's a nice thing in the warm weather, especially on the deuce side. If they're hitting the ball too hard, it's generally going to come off the back screen and make it a very nice drive off the screen if you're comfortable with that. Whereas on the ad side, if they can hit their kick serve into the side screen, you're limited more on what you can do with that. But off the deuce side, they hit that ball hard off the back screen, I'm going to make sure I let the ball get out in front of me, move my feet with it, try to attack it around shoulder level ideally, make a nice level swing through. We want to avoid trying to take the tomahawk overhead, which you see some people do. That's a much harder shot to control consistently.
Okay, Mike, so why don't we do some examples of some things we're trying to avoid? The tomahawk overhead off the screen, or maybe the big backswing, or the no follow through. Let's do some examples of that.
It's real important, especially against a really big server, to make sure your backswing is short. You'll get in real trouble if they're hitting a big hard serve and you're bringing your racket back really far. You're always going to be late on that shot. It'll be impossible to make that shot consistent.
So Mike, give the demonstration of what a too big of a backswing is. Going from where to where?
About right here. This is pretty short, and I think with a big server you need the time so that you want to make sure you start short. If you bring your racket back into here, you're getting way too big and you're almost always going to catch the ball late somewhere here, which is going to cause the ball to either fly to the right or fly long typically.
So Mike, your shoulder, you're pretty much going no further than your back shoulder, but you're still making the full follow through with it.
Absolutely. That's real important too. You want to make sure that even though the backswing's short, you are still extending the finish, because that's what's going to keep that topspin on the ball, dropping the ball down into the court.
Okay, perfect. Perfect, Mike. Well, thanks first for coming out and helping us out. To close, Mike, give us a kind of a sum over of returns. Give me the sort of, let's say, risk-reward thought process on it.
All right, well, it's very important to apply pressure to that server, because if you're lobbing every ball, the server feels no pressure, they'll just tap their server and you'll rarely get any faults out of that. That being said, it's also very important to make a high percentage of your returns. So if you're able to make a high percentage of returns, and I'm not going to give you a number, but somewhere around 80% is a pretty good number to work off of, then you're doing a great job. If you start to get lower than that percentage, 50, 60, 70, then it's time to maybe take some pace off your ball, maybe even mix in a lob once in a while.
Perfect, Mike. Now, driving off the screens, when we talk risk reward, when are we going to drive that?
You want to take advantage of a serve coming off the screen that's hit hard enough that really pulls you into the baseline of the court, inside the baseline of the court. If you're taking a ball that's off the back screen and you're still in the middle of the green, the risk reward is not there. You should not take that shot. You're all the way back, and they're usually already all the way up. But if that ball comes off the screen hard enough that gets your momentum moving forward into the blue or inside the baseline, that's a good time to attack the drive.
Perfect, Mike. Now, for more tips of all these great knowledge, find your local PPTA pro at usappta.com. Thanks, Mike, again for helping us out.
Thanks for having me.
And remember, practice makes perfect, so get out on those courts.
3, 2,